Guys, this is 1:20 a.m. and I'm just thinking out loud. Jokes apart. Let's take every joke apart. I'm just wondering, why can't we get proper jobs with our MSc certificate, since nobody wants to talk about it, since everyone is acting that they are fine coming to a country, spending 18, 19, 20,000 pounds, and you can't even get a proper job. What's wrong? Was it that the MSc was just like it's not a certificate to be used? I don't know. Or is it because we did BSc back home and MSc does not count? What is the advantage of our MSc certificate? Jokes apart, what has your MSc certificate done for you? You can't even work in your dream job in this country. Was it wired in a way that all immigrants must be stocked in the healthcare sector? Why can't we work in offices, banks, schools? Why can't we be principals? Why can't we just work in places that our certificates, what we studied, can take us to?
This is getting me. Like, it's amazing how emotional you can actually get when you really decide to tackle real life issues, like real situations, real systemic problems that are actually facing real people. And what's being shared here is super, super, super relevant and super, super, super powerful. I've studied 2 master's degrees. My first was an MSc in statistics. My second was a master's in teaching, an MTeach. And in all honesty, the field I work in right now, the stuff I do right now, doesn't really have a major bearing in light of those master's degrees. So I can truly empathize, let me use that terminology. I can truly empathize to a large degree with what's being said here. However, at the same time, she's mentioned something which I think is actually a key element and aspect, and that is that specifically, is it because the BSCs are being done in another country? I don't have that situation, unfortunately or fortunately. I didn't go through that process, so I don't know about that. But let me know in the comments below if you're going through exactly what she has shared is so. Because it will be paramount and equally powerful if this was the plight of the overwhelming majority of people who have studied degrees in other countries, come to the UK and now doing their MSc and finding the MSc is of no value to them. Now, the reality is there's a lot of aspects that I actually have strong opinions on in this regard. First and foremost, like overwhelmingly, seeing someone who's ventured from a country to another country with hopes, with ambitions, with goals, with plans, with dreams to achieve something, and find that to be kind of rocked because of maybe something they thought was going to be an asset, which is now looking more like a liability. She's mentioned paying 18, 19, up to £20,000 for the MSc and finding it's not even producing work for her, and feeling like many of her counterparts are going through the same thing. But look, there's more. Let's play the rest, and then I'll break down my thoughts straight after that. Let's go.
It breaks my heart when I speak with my fellow immigrant, and maybe you'll be like, you graduated from this school. Just be like, oh, I graduated from University of Wolverhampton. Oh, what master's did you do? And you see a very good course, master's in biomedical science. And you're just looking at the person, and you're just looking at yourselves, and you guys are doing support work or healthcare assistance. And I'm not saying that these jobs are bad. Oh, trust me, the experience is there, it's good. But is it not possible that you can use your masters to work in what you studied? There are 10,000s of immigrants out there that studied meaningful courses but they cannot even get office jobs. Why? Is it the country? Is it us? Is there anything we are not doing well? Is there any courses we are not taking right? What actually is the problem? Why can't our MSc certificate count for us in this country? It's just something I'm thinking out loud on. I'm like, what's going on? It's just like a cycle. You graduate from school and you don't work in what you graduated in. You work outside what you studied. And trust me, it's very heartbreaking. It's very, very heartbreaking. I'm just asking, what's going on? Is it our fault? Is it the job market? Is it the country, how it was designed? Is it designed not to favor immigrants to get good jobs with MSc, what they studied? Because we actually paid huge amount of money for this, and at the end of the day, it's just like you get a certificate and you put it under your bed. What's going on? Is it our fault? Is it the country? What is actually the problem? I just want to know.
So many things have been brought up here which are super relevant. The question being asked again and again, which I think is the question I'm going to deep dive into, is what's going on? Is it our fault? Is it the country? What's the problem? So let's get into the problem. The primary problem is most people do not understand how the UK works. Now, one of the most interesting things is the UK is not exactly what it says on the tin. Anyone who's born here, raised here, or spent a considerable amount of time here will very quickly realize the UK is not what it says on its tin. Samuel, what do you mean by that? Well, in nations like the US of A, right, where people are very loud or boisterous or wear their heart on their sleeve, as it were, you get what you sign up for. Whereas in the UK, because the demographic, the mindset, the philosophy, the way of doing things is slightly different. For example, here's a quick, simple example that most UK natives, nationals, British people will agree with, right? British people, we don't talk about money. Okay, most British people do not talk about money. It's not a natural thing to speak about money. Now, the question is, why is that? The reason why is because that stems from these deeper roots of how the British mentality, the British way of thinking, the British philosophy actually operates. Now, if you understand that as a baseline, as a foundation, okay, what you say is not always what you mean. What you see is not always what you get. When you understand that as a foundation, it becomes so much easier to work in the UK. It becomes so much easier to work with people from the UK. It becomes so much easier to engage with effectively British people, right? Now, based on that foundation, let's jump into this question. What's the problem? Here's the problem. When there isn't an acknowledgement that you're in a nation where what you see is not what you get, what happens is you try and attempt to engage with what you see, and you very quickly find you don't get what you thought you were going to get. So the key is to start to understand the covert language. The key is to understand the sub language, the language beneath the overt language, the language beneath the language that's being shown to you. So, for example, mainstream media in the UK will often share negative upon negative upon negative upon negative stories about what's going on in the world. But does that mean that everything going on in the world is negative? No, it doesn't. So sometimes you have to go beneath the surface of what's being put on display in order to decide and determine how you are going to tackle, manage, or maneuver in your day. Now, with that being said, let's apply this to the master's situation. I believe, this is one of my strongest beliefs, I believe the benefit, the blessing, the actual value of doing a master's degree is not in the academic rigor, is not in the actual content of the information. Now, I'm extremely fortunate, maybe even I would go as far as to say extremely blessed in the fact that my first undergraduate degree in the UK was in computing and statistics. And when I studied that degree, one of our lecturers it was literally our graduating week, after the 3 years, right? One of the professors, he shared with us that we are going to leave this university and many of us are going to go into organizations as statisticians, organizations as IT professionals, etc. And we're going to quickly discover that all of the things that we used for the last 3 years to develop ourselves, to build ourselves, to enhance ourselves, to gather skills, to garner skills are going to be irrelevant. And they're going to be irrelevant because technology moves faster than our specific university was able to have a handle on technology. So what that taught me all those years back, 2008, what that taught me leaving my undergraduate degree, going to study my first MSc, what that taught me was don't rely on the content of your training. Instead, rely on the context of your training. And this, again, in the UK is a very big, broad issue, because in the UK, it's heavily pushed, especially if you come from African families who have migrated to the UK or who are in the process of migrating to the UK. You get the mentality that the UK is the key for education. But here's the issue. In the UK, education is pushed as hard education being the highest value education, i.e. if you are a mathematician, and I shouldn't say that because I studied math related subjects, but if you're a mathematician, if you are someone who has biomed, right, and these specific subjects. But the reality is, if you look at the world, the people who are the wealthiest are not the people who studied hard subjects. And even if it is people who studied hard subjects, what we see of those people at the highest level is actually their soft subjects or their soft skills actually pervading the marketplace. So for example, we saw one of the greatest entrepreneurs of our lifetime in Steve Jobs, who's late now, who literally would present on stages to millions of people through means of virtual or also in-person events, and share with us the secrets that he's revealing in the new products of this is the new this or this is the new that, right? And what would happen? People would flock to the stores, stand outside of the doors for hours and hours until there was no more of that product anymore. Now, why would they do that? They do that because of the soft skills being used. Now, this is not to take away from the engineering skill set or the engineering requirements in order to produce a brand new phone or in order to produce a brand new tablet or anything like that. But this is to help us understand that when you go and look at these entrepreneurs, the Elon Musk of today, when you go and look at these world changers, the people that are moving and shaking in commerce, in business, those people are largely leveraging their soft skills. They're leveraging their ability to present. They're leveraging their ability to engage. They're leveraging their ability to network. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. Most people going to study a master's degree, especially coming from another country in the world where they studied their BSc, are not coming here with the mindset of networking, the sub language, the covert value. They're focused on the overt value. Oh, when I finish with my MSc from LSE, I'm going to be extremely valuable. Rather than realizing, well, hold on a minute, the value of going to LSE is that there's going to be Oxford grads in there. There's going to be Cambridge grads in there. There's going to be people who graduated from higher level universities for their undergrad inside of these universities, which allows me to network and connect. And in a year, you might be a support worker who's kept in contact with someone who was a graduate from Oxford, then went to LSE, and then now they're an investment banker or in an office. Let's just use that language. They're in an office in a good position because they've gone and worked their tail off for 12 months. They've gone and worked their proverbial tail off for 12 months. And because they remember you, like Joseph in the Bible, who was remembered after 2 years of the butler and the baker being released, he was remembered. He was brought out of the prison, which you may feel you're in right now, a proverbial prison in work or a proverbial prison in your lack of work, and he was taken straight to the palace. And my real concern for most people, whether they're in the situation where they've studied an MSc in the UK and they've studied a BSc another way, or whether they've done exactly the same thing I did, they studied their BSc in the UK, they studied their MSc in the UK, they've done all their studies in the UK. If you are finding that you're not securing work positions in your current state in the UK, it's most likely because you actually approached university the wrong way. Gone are the days of seeing university as an opportunity to get a certificate that will set you apart from the rest of the world. Now we live in a generation through means of the internet, through means of information, through means of the way that communication has had transformation. We live in a world where the true asset is the soft skills and not just your hard skills. I hope this helps you. If it does, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I look forward to seeing you becoming a part of the tribe. As I usually say, remember, small keys open big doors. Let me know in the comments below what your views are on this one. Good day, God bless. Let's go.
Small keys open big doors.